Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back. I'm super excited. Today, I have the MacBook Air in Sky Blue, and this is one that I've been looking forward to getting my hands on probably the most. The Sky Blue is the newest color in the MacBook Air lineup, and just the MacBooks in general. I'm super excited for this because it's a deviation from the silver and the black that we've been seeing, and it's honestly, in my opinion, a spectacular color. So we're going to talk about some of the specs, who's it for, how's it been working for me for the past couple weeks, and then I'll give you guys my honest opinion on it. So let's go ahead and dive in. Design of the MacBook Air is everything that you've come to know and love from Apple. The trackpad is large. The keyboard feels really great. The feedback on the keys is everything you've expected. The speakers are actually surprisingly good for such a thin laptop. They sound balanced. They get pretty loud. They're nice. They're not MacBook Pro level of sound, but for the Air, I mean, it's more than I think anybody could need. I tend to opt to listen to headphones or use the speakers at my desk, especially if I'm plugged into a studio display or something like that. But the display is bright, sharp, and color accurate. It's great for watching, content and doing creative work. Like I've said, I am going to edit this full video on this laptop, and I also do some Figma work with it. So it's perfect for creatives, and I think that it's a really good all around machine. All right, so let's get into performance specs. Mine is spec'd with the M4 chip with the 10 core CPU and the 10 core GPU. I've spec'd it out to 16 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage. Now, I recommend that you do not buy. So let me rephrase this. The 256 version of this laptop is fantastic. You get standard 16 gigs of RAM, and the M4 chip, which is phenomenal. I have a hard time recommending 256 to anyone anymore because if it's not future proof and it's not necessarily something that you can grow into. MacBooks last a long time. My 2007 MacBook, the polycarbonate one, lasted until 2018 when I graduated college. That's from junior high all the way through college. Now, I didn't use it the entire time. I ended up having to replace it, but I still could use it for media consumption. So, I don't recommend going with that base storage. You can always add more external storage, but I would recommend starting with 512 gigs. I think it's well-rounded, it's room to grow into, it's enough that you can move things from an internal to an external drive and then, swap items out if you're on the go. Now, the one thing I would also recommend is to maybe opt for the 24 gigs of RAM. Again, just to future proof it. Mine, I spec'd and paid for myself, so I did not spec the RAM because I actually didn't think that I needed to. So moving forward, it's a fanless design. The computer does not get hot. It does under certain loads get warmer. I've noticed that when I have it connected to dual displays like I do right now, and I'm doing things like editing in Final Cut or editing in Figma or even playing some games, it can get warm. I tend to play a lot of older computer games, such as games from the Command and Conquer series that I run via Parallels. It does warm up. I actually attempted to play Assassin's Creed Shadows on it. The experience for Mac on that game has been some subpar in general. On the Air, it was playable, but I would say opt for, on my M4 Max Studio, it's much more enjoyable to play. I wanted to talk about my battery life. I've experienced that this machine is really, really good on standby. Almost, I would say, I've noticed virtually no loss of battery, from going from one evening to the next morning. I'm seeing about like 12 hours of use. I haven't had to like run to a charger. So, as far as limitations go, physically, there are only two Thunderbolt ports as well as the MagSafe adapter. In addition, there are no HDMI or SD card slots available. That is something that I have a little bit of an ick with, is I think that the SD card slot should be on this computer. 90% of people, I think, could utilize an SD card slot, especially if you're a creative or maybe a college student, like a photography student. I think there's an opportunity there, and it's not that thin. Come on, guys. We can do it. One of the limitations I still think is that base storage. I really think if you can, to future proof and grow into it, I think upgrading to the 250, or not from the 256 to the 512 is worth it. I spec it 1 terabyte. It gives me plenty of room and opportunity to offload onto a external drive if necessary. So we've kind of sprinkled this out through the video. And who is this computer for? Like I've said, I think this computer is really good for about 90% of people. You have a great battery, the performance is great. You can do everything I think you would need to do outside of a professional environment with this machine. Now, I do think you could do some of the things in a professional environment with this machine, but I think you'd be a little limited. But I think the people that know they would be limited by this machine aren't looking at this machine. But this computer is really good for a lot of people. If you're doing heavy video editing, you want to do gaming, you need a lot of ports, and you're looking for something to do really intense tasks. Yeah, this isn't for you. But for the other, 90% of people, this is perfect. If you're pulling your laptop out once a year to do taxes or check your email or get on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever you're doing, this is perfect. It's literally perfect. And, for those like us, when I was a student, I wanted more personality on my computer, but we had silver MacBooks. If you're a writer or creative or a casual user, it's pretty and it's functional. How often do we get that? So, as I wrap up, I just kind of want to say this is probably one of my favorite Macs that has come out recently. Apple has been putting a lot of their magic, I think, into some of the lower end models. You have color and personality with the iPad mini and the iPad Air and the regular iPad. You have color and personality with the MacBook Airs and the iPhone 16 lineup. There's some of that old magic from the 90s, with that color and personality that's coming back. And I think that's where the magic with Apple still lies. I think that this is something I'm considering keeping because of how much I love it. And so I hope that helps you make a decision if you're in the midst of choosing between a MacBook Air and a MacBook Pro. I'm a huge fan of it. And honestly, the color makes all the difference. It just adds a little bit of that personality. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. And thanks for stopping by. And I'll see you guys on the next one.